What's up, basement gas fans? This is the first official FAQ video. You questioned and I answered, or I will answer. Anyway, my name is Jack and I have a serious case of gas. So this first FAQ video, it's a mix of questions. It's going to be dominated mainly by Adam Jones or Tool or Diesel pedal questions, but I've got a couple others thrown in there, so we'll see. Anyway, I'm going to hopefully do this as maybe a bi-weekly thing, so if you have any questions, please add them down in the bottom, and I'll do my best to answer. Anyway, let's get to it. Josh asks, as far as a question, I would like to know about the Diesel VH4 2 pedal. I'm wanting so bad to buy one, but my question is in relation about the two ways you can run it. Front of amp versus the loop, i.e. the power amp. My question more or less would be to see differences in tonal characteristics by using either the EQ settings on the pedal or the amp. So I've actually had a lot of questions on the Diesel VH4 2 pedal about using it as a preamp, just using the power amp of an amplifier. And here's actually another question concerning that as well. Diesel VH2 comments, you should do an episode of running the Diesel pedal through different power amps. A lot of people are curious how it sounds with more budget-friendly amps. So I thought I'll give you guys a sound test, and this is what it will sound like. So this is going from the output to clean amp into the Marshall Origin 20, and this is just the clean sound. Put everything here at 12 o'clock, and this is the channel 1, which is supposed to be similar to the channel 3 on the VH4. Okay, let's add a little bit more mids, tiny bit more gain, and a bit of presence. I think actually it sounds better with less gain. So what I've done now is I've used the output on the pedal, which is for the power amp. So you're completely skipping over the preamp in the amplifier, in the Marshall in this case, and utilizing mainly the power amp. It goes into the effects return on the amplifier itself. Important thing to note is on the Marshall Origin 20 or the Marshall Origin series, you actually have to turn on the effects loop like that. And once you've actually turned on the effects loop, you turn on the pedal as well. You might need to turn the volume down on your master switch, otherwise it will clip. So what you're hearing there is only the Diezel as a pre-amplifier. So none of the actual Marshall sound is being used, only the power amp section in the Marshall itself. Personally, I prefer going in the, or from the clean out into the front of the amplifier, like so. I think it gets a little bit more of that sort of Marshall-y plexi sound, and you can also use the preamp a little bit on the gain section on the Marshall. Douglas says, I still want to find an affordable way for Jones tone. Appreciate all you do for us tool nerds. Is the Diesel VH4 pedal worth the money? Thanks, bro. Douglas, I personally would say that the Diesel VH4 2 pedal is definitely worth the money, especially if you don't have the budget or the room to get the full big 100 watt heads of the VH4 or the slimmed down VH2. Especially if you don't have a way to attenuate it, to still be able to get a great sound out of it without, you know, bringing down the whole building or being evicted from your apartment. So if you're a fan of Adam Jones and a fan of high gain stuff, then definitely check this out. I mean, don't forget, Diesel amplifiers, especially the VH4, have been used by the Smashing Pumpkins, Billy Corgan, Mastodon, Brent Hines used one, Metallica, of course. So Diezel is a great high gain German amplifier producer, so this pedal really gets a good sound out of it, like I hopefully you heard before. Matthew Gregory asked, does he run all his effects in front of the amp? No effects loop? As far as I know, yes. It's right into the front. He does not use the effects loop. This is something that other people have also commented on. It's other things that I've read on websites and guitar forums. I think sort of like 90% of the people would agree that he goes straight into the front. Now, if anybody gets a picture of his live rig, post it please, because I would like this final confirmation. But yes, I think he does go straight into the front, so do that as well. Frankie Boy has a long question. Actually, it's two questions. I'm trying to build an Adam Jones board myself right now. Two questions. Are you sure with the CE5? I can't find any other sources online stating he uses it or how the settings are. The guys from Anderton state that he uses one in their Sound Like Tool videos, but I couldn't find any imagery of his board showing the CE5. Frankie Boy, no, I am not positive, sure, 100% confident that he is using a Boss CE5 chorus pedal, but I still think it sounds pretty good. Now, one can't forget that chorus and flanger modulation are very similar. It's mainly just about the speed. Flanger is more sort of a longer kind of rate, and chorus is a bit faster. So they're very similar in what they do. But I think flanger is mainly the dominant pedal that he uses, especially on things like Enema, the whole album. And as far as the live setting is concerned, I would almost say the flanger might be too much. It might oversaturate the sound, especially since he's always going into the front of the amplifier. I would try out a Boss CE5. They're pretty cool. I think it adds a little bit of an extra level to it, so it's almost like double tracking, and it just builds up a little bit the sound. It has a nice modulation. Try it out. I'd like to know what you think personally. I prefer the CE5 if I'm just playing normally. If I'm trying to really get into those Enema tones, then the flanger, of course. So this is the clean signal. Now this is the chorus CE5. And the flanger. Again, the CE5. And the flanger. Now into a distorted channel. First the chorus, CE5. Now the flanger. And for good measure, both of them on at the same time. Second part, I tried to get my gain from a Rev G3 pedal, which brought up the question, does Jones use the effects loop of his amps or does he go straight in with all the modulation going on? Unfortunately, I don't have either a small Marshall or a Diezel, only my Blackstar HT5. Now I can't decide whether to use the amps gain or the Rev G3s. Do you have any idea? Hint. Thanks and have a good one. Now, I personally don't own a Rev G3 pedal, but I've seen videos on it. Rabir Masad did a great review on it, and it's a great sounding distortion pedal. It can be really used as a nice preamp. If I didn't own so many distortion and preamp pedals, I would probably get it myself. It's probably still on my wish list somewhere in a shopping cart, but use that in the front and also maybe using it in the power section. Just try both, see what you think sounds best. The good thing is about the Blackstar amps that they have the ISF switch or knob where you can also get an American modern tone or a British vintage tone. If you're going for an Adam Jones tone, obviously use the British vintage tone to try and get that Marshall tone. And put the Rev G3 on top of that. Maybe use less gain on the actual Marshall, on the Blackstar amplifier, and really crank it a little bit more on the Rev G3. But remember, less gain is more, especially when it comes to Adam Jones. That's something that I've really learned now the last couple of years. Less gain is more. JMP 220478 asks, is that an Anderson pickup in the custom? JMP, good eyes, my friend, you have good eyes. This is indeed a Anderson pickup. It is the H3 Plus Super Hot, and this thing is a very, very hot pickup. I mean, it's a real, it's almost on the, it's just really hot. But in all fairness, I got this because I'm a big Billy Howardell fan from Perfect Circle, and also James Iha, also Perfect Circle, also Smashing Pumpkins, and they both use Anderson pickups as well. I wanted to try one out, and wow, I'm really happy with it, really. It's almost too hot, but no, it's if you want to do a pickup change and you don't want to go sort of down the mainstream line of Seymour Duncan or EMGs, try out one of these. I think they're brilliant. One of the best pickups I've ever used. Taylor asks and comments, do you consider the flange an always on pedal? Any songs where you wouldn't use one? I feel like when he has the wah and the boost on, it gets kind of crazy when you add a flange and a chorus for that matter on top of it. Seems like a lot of Enema has it on the whole time, but less so on the more recent albums, particularly 10,000 Days. Taylor, I've kind of already answered this question, but I'll go through it again real quick. Flanger, definitely not an always on pedal, definitely not. If you're doing songs from the Enema album, then yes, yeah, maybe. Just you have to use it sparingly, a little bit too less than too much. And as far as the CE5 being the missing piece, I explained it as well. I think it just adds that extra layer. I'm really glad that I got one. It's not just for Adam Jones tones. I think it's a great pedal in general. I had a TC electronic chorus pedal. I think the Boss CE5, it's first of all cheaper, and second of all, it just sounds really, really nice. Do you run a wet-dry rig? I just started doing this with the modulation on 1 amp, and it makes a huge difference in being able to cut through while still being drenched in effects. So in the very first Adam Jones video I did with the 4 different methods, the first method I was using 3 amplifiers. Now the Diezel was getting all the effects, and the Kraken, Victory Kraken, and I think it was the Victory Sheriff or the Marshall, they were dry. So no effects, and it makes a big difference. You get full effects in the 1 amplifier, and the other 2 you can really use to kind of drive the signal a little bit more and keep everything not being completely saturated with effects. So I completely agree with you. It's a good call. If you can, try to always use a wet, dry signal. Even if you're just using 2 amplifiers, one just for clean tones or dry tones, and one that's getting all the effects in it. Either the front or the effects loop, that's up to you. Marco asks, what do you think about the Diesel VH4 pedal into the Helix? I got some Adam Jones presets that I'm quite happy with, but you know how it is with a never-ending search for tone. Yes, Marco, I know how it is, the never-ending search for tone. But as far as the Diesel VH4 2-point Mark IV, whatever pedal, yes, definitely check it out. Either use it like I did with the Marshall in your Helix as the preamp and only use like a power section on the Helix, or just take a very sort of clean amplifier signal in your Helix and just use the gain structure on this and just push it a little bit more. But otherwise, either the Mark II, which has 2 channels, or use just the very first edition that Diezel brought out, which is just 1 channel, which is the channel 3 on the Diesel VH4 amplifier. But they're great. Check it out. Frankie Boy has another comment, less of a question. Adam, if you watch the video and you're reading this, I think you should consider hiring Jack as your new guitar tech. Also, you're a god. Frankie Boy, I would full-heartedly agree with you. Adam Jones, you are a god, and now with the new album that's finally come out, you've just emphasized it even more. So I think we all stand hand in hand with Frankie Boy in agreeing with that. And the other part I would also agree with. Definitely. Adam, call me, man. What says, I think you should create a Patreon page. There are probably some people who would support you there. Even if no one doesn't, well, you would still have a Patreon up for when someone does. So, what? First of all, that reminds me of that Ghostbusters cartoon episode where, no, Ray, Mrs. Rogers is what? So, I don't know. You might not know it, some of you will. I'm a child from the 80s, so Patreon page, yeah, I don't think I've really reached that point yet where I can start sort of like asking people for money. I don't know. I mean, I have a full-time job. I work 40 hours a week, so this is just my sort of like my part-time hobby kind of thing. You know, I've kind of reduced my gaming and put more effort into video production and audio production and YouTube production and production. And so if I ever get tossed out on the street for my job and I'm really hard up for cash, then yeah, I might consider a Patreon page. But until then, my goal is to finally get monetization from YouTube so you guys can listen to annoying adverts like this. Hi, I always thought that guitar playing was really difficult. What am I doing? Until I finally discovered the app. What app, you ask? It's none of your business, but buy it anyway. Hi, my name's Sally, and I'd like to introduce you to Muffin. What is Muffin? It's a new type of browsing app that is so cool because it really, really is intuitive, and it's faster, and it helps Russia hack your emails faster. So yeah, when I first started off this YouTube channel, money or monetization or asking for money was never on the agenda. It was literally about me wanting to spread information, get feedback from you guys, have conversations about guitars and amplifiers. That's it. So, you know, if I reach 1,000 subscribers, that's one of my lists, bucket lists, things that I can check off, but I'll keep going anyway, so yeah. Lieutenant Llama comments, grab yourself a second-hand Axe FX2 and I'll shoot you my patches. They are pretty on point. Can't get feedback though, unfortunately. Lieutenant Llama, I've already replied to you about this. I really appreciate it, and for anybody who has an Axe FX, message Lieutenant Llama because he obviously has some pretty sick-ass presets. I don't own one, but still, thanks anyway for the offer. Very much appreciated. Yes, that is sadly one of the downsides of using things like a Helix or Kemper or Axe FX. You can't get that feedback unless you're using a cabinet, but yeah, there are downsides to all things. Niqueeth, I think is how you pronounce it, asks, hey man, how are the tuners holding up, and did they get easier to turn after some break-in time? Thinking about getting some for my Tilly. Niqueeth, the tuners are holding up really, really well, and actually I've put them on another Strat that I have, and they are really, they're fantastic. They do loosen up after a while, they do. So, you know, you don't actually have to tune them that often because they do hold it, but once you change strings, it's really easy to tune up. So, Goto, you guys have knocked it out of the park as always, and if you're looking for these kind of vintage-looking tuners, then definitely go in the direction of Goto. They've got it down. So thanks everybody for your questions and comments. If you have any other questions or you would like me to expand on something, or if something was unclear, please add them down below in the comments section. And if you found this video helpful, useful, interesting, entertaining, then please like and subscribe. It's always a big help for me. And finally, as far as the Basement Gas pick giveaway is concerned, I am going to be getting in touch with a total of 3 people, and that's JMP22078. Thanks for following me on Instagram. And Robert Wells, also, Dr. Glock, and actually also as a bonus, Frankie Boy. I'm going to be getting in touch with you. I'll write you a message on Instagram. I'll get your addresses, and I'll send you a guitar pick, maybe something else. I'll see what fits in an envelope. Anyway, thanks for your support, guys. And for all of you who know and for all of you who don't, my name is Jack, and I still have a serious case of FAQ questionable gas. Have a nice week and a nice day.